Welcome, John, to Metalladium Pages. For me, it's a great pleasure to talk with you again because we spoke 2 years ago for the last album, and I remember
Yeah.
a great chat to talk with you for the sec of the Vile Divinities at that time. And now we speak about this new album and Holidayfication. And along the band always, and more things related to the metal world because you're a terrific guy doing interviews. So we're starting, I think, with a common question. How was band being the band during the last 3 years? I saw the band very active in doing tours. I think you are the only band that end the pandemic and you start to do a lot of tours in around the world.
Yeah. It was nice in a way to have a little break, the pandemic. Of course, it's a sucky reason to have a break, but, you know, in any situation, we try to make the best of it, we'll say. So we took that time during the pandemic to kind of recharge the batteries and just focus on other things. And then also gave us a lot of time also to write music and work on band stuff. So it was really just it just opened up our schedule a lot to like work on different things. So that was really great. And we were able to, do most of the recording for this during the pandemic and also, even write other songs. We have like a lot more songs than just these ones, but they're for future releases. And the after the pandemic, yeah, we just like, we wanted to get out as soon as possible and fucking do something. And at the end of 2001, we were able to play our first like mini tour of Mexico just to kind of get our feet wet a little bit again playing. And then from that we did that Nile Sanguisugabog tour with the IM, and then what we did Goat Whore US tour with what was that, Caveman Colt and Bewitcher. We did European tour. We did one with Wolves in the Throne Room and Bell Witch. We just, in 2022, we just said, fuck it. We're just going to try to do everything we can to kind of promote the Sect of All Divinities album, which done so well. But we didn't get the tour for it because of the pandemic. So we wanted to do that, get it kind of over with so we can move forward with the new album that we're, going to be releasing soon, because for us, it was like we kind of added an extra delay because of the pandemic and stuff as far as releasing this.
Okay, nice. Oh, I remember when we spoke about the Sect of the Vile Divinities, as you told me a few seconds ago too, that one you compose a lot of songs. You compose 25, 30 songs, and you select the best songs to create an album. So can we say that this Holidayfication has has songs from the previous album?
This one, no. This one, well, no. There's some that were earlier on we wrote. Yes, wait, on this one, I was thinking of Sect. No, this one is all brand new stuff.
Okay.
Once we did Sect, we basically like used every song part that we had that we wanted to use. There's extra riffs and stuff that we have put aside from, the 2010s, we'll say, or teens, or whatever you call it. Like that time, there's still riffs laying around, but this album was all like brand new stuff. This was stuff that was written pretty much the day after Sect of All Divinities until after the day after we recorded it, we started writing music until we finished for the album. This is the first album that we did in a long time where we didn't rehash older songs from that weren't ready at the time of the previous album. This is the first album in a while where it's all fresh stuff, and it was really cool to have that because we having 4 people in a band that are songwriters, it's super easy to come up with an album's worth of material. And if you have too much backlog, it's like everyone hardly gets any input on anything because the song, at least new input, we'll say, because there's always, when we do an album, there's always new stuff that we're just excited to work on. But then we have these old songs lying there, which are still cool. But it's nice to have a totally fresh slate before starting an album instead of just hanger arounds that you want to kind of work on.
Okay. One thing that you said a few seconds ago is that this new album is composed by everything because there's no band, there's a lot of band, there's all four members are composing music. But the curious thing, well, for me, when I hear completely this dedication, by the way, I did my pre-order as usually. I love your band since the beginning. So with this aspect, I denote some aspects from the old days, like this. I hear some influence from the Decimate Christendom, Vanquishing Vengeance, and a little Infernal Storm into there. It's curious because, and I think this new album and changed the complete concept that a lot of reviewers said in the albums, the morbidity of the band, because the band always transmit morbidity, obscure this kind of music. So how do you define exactly the bueno, this new sound of this unholidayfication?
Well, each album is an answer to the album before it, which I always say because it's true. Um, with Sect of All Divinities, I'm happy with the album. I think it was great, but I was a little bit disappointed. I thought it needed a more raw and more aggressive production on it. The production value is great on the album, but it's almost too clean or something.
Yeah.
So this one we really want a rough edge, and I think it just because some of Sect of All Divinities was more mid-tempo and more, I don't know, contained or whatever. I really wanted to right out of the box go for a more chaotic, a more aggressive vibe on the songs. And for myself, I just immediately started doing some of, wrote early on some of the riffs for like the offering and chalice, which were some of the more chaotic and brutal songs on the album. Just the kind I thought it was a good way to kind of set the standard on where we want to go, where and everyone kind of I think got inspired by the fact that there was a lot of energy in the stuff that was coming out early on. So yeah, it kind of gets addictive, and we just kind of went more with a vibe. And plus, having the addition of Luke in the band on top of everything, he's really great at adding atmosphere with his lead and solo playing, which I think really helps also accent the more morbid, darker, grungier vibe, which is perfect for us.
Okay, okay. Other aspects about what now the in general. Hi, Jack. How are you, Jack?
I'm well. For whatever reason, my video isn't working. I don't know why, but I can't seem to turn it on either. I don't really know exactly what I did wrong.
Okay.
Wait, did this work? Can you hear me now?
Yes,
You
well,
can
we
hear
can hear
you.
you. I don't know. I don't know. Well, continue with the interview. Well,
Yeah.
I love the bands now at this time. Said that the Incantation was one of the fathers of the Finnish scene because your music since the end of the 90s or beginnings of beginning of the end of the 80s or beginning of the 90s influenced bands like Aberrance, bands like Pestigor, a lot of music in the 90s appears in the Finnish scene, like the old partners, this kind of stuff. So, how do you feel about these kind of comments that Incantation influence the Finnish scenes as we know? Because the Finnish scene has a personal sound, but personal is like as when I spoke with Chris Reifert, I asked by the same thing. A lot of music, like the guitars from the Two, Dismember, Grave, Unleash, told everybody that the band influenced the sound of the Swedish scene is Autopsy, and now for a lot of people thinks that a lot of bands appears in the Finnish scenes because Incantations appears in the world.
Well, I mean, that's obviously an honor because the Finnish scene has some great, great traditional sounding death metal bands throughout history. I think, I mean, yeah, we heard some of the Finnish stuff, like early Finnish stuff, like the Abhorrence and bands like that in the probably the early 90s or something. And it was like I would say, an inspiration for us. Anything we heard that was really killer was an inspiration to us. So I think what happened in the Finnish scene is that, you know, we kind of inspired each other to some extent. Like I love the stuff that was coming out at that time, even like an Impale Nazarene, and these bands were just really, really going for it in that Finnish scene. And yeah, we were influenced by those bands, and then I think Turnaround is other bands from Finland got influenced by us, maybe because of the connection somehow, or maybe just because they liked it or whatever. But I mean, that's totally awesome to be able to inspire other bands with what we do and stuff. And there's always been certain countries that were more connected to the raw edge of the stuff that we did. Finland being one of them, Poland being another one. Like a lot of South America really connected with our raw edge sound and stuff like that. So it's just part of it's part of the way things are, but it's a total honor. I mean, any band, regardless of where you're from, if we inspired you in any way to, play your music, I mean, we're all just flattered by it, because that's a great thing for any songwriter, to be a part of inspiring other people to do, sick and, killer music is an awesome thing to have accomplished. It's something to be proud of. I mean, it's not something that I sit around and think of how cool we are because of it, but it's definitely flattering for sure. There's no doubt about it.
Okay. And what do you think about this, Chuck? Because you entered to the band in 2008. I spoke with John about this aspect. The Incantation influenced one of the biggest scenes into the death metal.
Oh, I mean, I hate to mirror John's statement, but it is truly an honor. I mean, you never perceive yourself as being influential to that level. People that, take what you want from an influence and make it their own, that is something that is one of the highest honors. I mean, I could never even imagine that. For the people that have embraced it, I'm humbled. Thank you. I mean, I've heard from a couple of people as of recent that they considered what we do with the band as like their hero, or somebody that they inspired to even begin playing, let alone build upon a project that might already be established, or contouring it to their own whims. I think it's an honor that I hope we live up to it.
It's hard to even sometimes comprehend that, because being metal fans and doing it, we're just doing what we like doing and being honest to ourselves. So it's really awesome to hear that, but it's definitely not expected by any means. It was more of a surprise.
Yeah, more of a shock than anything, really. So that's
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. Talking about again a little about the history of Incantation. Well, all people know that one of the founders of Incantation with you, John, was Craig Pilar. Now, and he has his own band on Disma at this time. So, but a curious thing is that when you hear Disma, you hear a lot of influence when Incantation. Or perhaps it's the same because it's one of the founders of Incantation with you. So, what is your opinion about now the sound of Incantation appears in the other project of Craig Pilar, like Disma? I think a Disciple of Mockery even has a little touch of Incantation into there. So a lot of things happen. So, what's your opinion about the sound of Incantation? It's not like it's like primary for a lot of death metal bands nowadays.
Well, I mean, for Disma, I mean, Craig Pillard and Bill Venner both played an Incantation at one time or another. So I think having, both of them were kind of a part of, the early stages of kind of building the sound of the band. So I think it's only natural for there to be some similarities. I mean, an important, but both members at the time were involved in some songwriting to some extent. I mean, Craig, we wrote a good amount of stuff at the time he was in the band. So I think it's only natural that there's going to be, a similar Incantation sound and some stuff that Craig does, even the stuff probably that, isn't so metal and maybe more of the I don't know what's it called, the atmospheric kind of stuff he does. That even that stuff, because I mean, there's no doubt that his DNA is in, you know, in those early songs that we worked on together. And, you know, and like I always say, even regardless of who writes the songs, it's like the people playing the songs on the album do have a big part in making those songs sound good or bad, and adding, you know, their own, you know, part of who they are into the song. So, you know, I think it's only natural. And as far as other bands, I mean, I think it's an honor and cool that they use part of our sound as part of what they do. You know, and as far as for us goes, I mean, you know, we're just continuing down the path that, you know, the band started early on. I mean, of course, there's always going to be changes in the sound, especially with different people playing, because everybody brings different things to the table that are themselves and important. And I think it's a good thing to have everybody you're playing with be an actual part of the sound. So, you know, but it's never going to be 100%. You know, we're not going to mimic what we did before. We're going to try to expand upon it with the people that are with us now. Because I mean, just because people might have different things they bring to the table, it's all great. It's just different things that they bring, and there's different things that we could accent on as a band. I mean, why would we have people in the band if we're not going to utilize their talent in the best way we possibly can? I mean, that's just like part of being a band, is sharing in everyone's talent, trying to make something great.
You know, when you were saying in regards to like how like Disma, for example, has like similarities to Incantation, it is primarily just because of the nature of them being within the band at one point in time. When they were part of the lineup, it's something, it's that, yes, you're going to recognize Craig's vocals in its associations when it comes to like Golgotha and Mortal Throne, but Disma in and of itself, you know, is its own entity. But you hear Craig and you go, aha, and you make that connection. But the same thing could be said for like The Primitive, or like Beast of Revelation, or, you know, Shed the Skin, for example, like all these different projects that were in association to a particular lineup that were part of like the, you know, the ever expanding Incantation family. Yes, they, you know, you're going to make those associations regardless. It doesn't mean that they sound like it, but that's what you attribute to it.
Yeah, because the important thing is that all these bands, you know, have their own personality in there, and part of their personality was intermeshed with our personality because they played in the band at some time. So it's only natural, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's not, I don't think bands, you know, band members say either that left the band or doing other things are like, I want to sound like Incantation. No, it's they want to sound like themselves, and it's just part of, you know, the situation. I mean, I know when I do stuff, I'm not trying to sound like Incantation, but there's gonna be some crossover. It's impossible not to, unless I like cut out everything that has my personality in the song. It's, you know, there's always going to be a little bit of what I do with Incantation and everything I do, which is it's fun. It's because
every single individual,
being honest.
Yep.
You know,
I mean, every single individual cannot change itself. You know, like Jim Rowe, when he does The Primitive, yes, he sounds like himself. There's no way to avoid it, dude. and that's a fantastic project. You know what I mean? Can you draw parallels to Incantation? Well, yeah, sure. I mean, there's always going to be an association. So it is just my 2 cents is all.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with what you say 100%. That's an accurate way of describing it.
Okay. When talking about from this new album, is your fifth album that you are that you are, I think, mixing with Dan Suano in the production, mix, mastering. So why did you decide to select the work with Dan Suano since The Vanquishing Vengeance, and now with his new album? Because he came from another background, no?
Yeah, well, we were happy to work with them. I worked with them a couple different times before we did it with Incantation. We did they did one of the bands, Banished from Inferno, which I was releasing on my Ibex Moon Records at that time. And then we ended up using Dan Suano for a Funerist recording that we did, Reduced to Sludge. And we were just both the things that he did were both, I was really happy with the sound and stuff, so we decided to try him out for Incantation. I think he did like a live song. Did Chuck, did he do a live song for After Party Massacre? I can't remember.
Oh,
Um,
I really don't know, man.
yeah, I think I want to say yes.
Okay.
And after hearing that, we were just really happy with it. Thought it was really great, and we've had a problem throughout our history with finding the right people to help us in the studio, because most of the people weren't part of the scene that we were part of. And Dan Swano comes from, my generation of metal and stuff. So I think we were just able to connect over, understanding, the old school underground demos and all that kind of stuff, vibe of everything. And it's been really great. I mean, it's not always easy to get through a mix, because of course everybody has their own opinions on stuff. And he has his own opinions on how things should be. But for me personally, I think he got us to a great spot on the Unholy Deification album, because he was able to capture the barbaric vibe that we were looking for on the album, but also have it well produced, which it's sometimes difficult to keep some of the grit and the mud there, but also have it well produced in a way that it sounds good to through a stereo system or something like that, where it's not over muffled and stuff. And I think he found a good medium for it. And I think part of the reason why it worked out so well is because before he was doing the mix for this album, he came out to one of our shows in Germany, and he was really inspired by the set. He really enjoyed the ferociousness of the set. And I think that helped with this time trying to capture some of the live vibe of the band on the album, which I feel is a real benefit to the album, because it's so easy to like just get caught up in like sonically what sounds good and all that stuff. But I think when you see a band play live and you really get a vibe of the personality and actually being there and witnessing it, I think it gives you even a better opinion of what the band should be sounding like on an album. So that's my rant on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everything that we do when it comes to a studio situation, whatever we translate to the stage, we would like it to be as organic as humanly possible. You want to be able to recreate that album live. You don't want it to just be like, so overtly produced that it's impossible for it to sound like that. Another aspect would be that when you're, oh, well, I mean, I'd be repeating you, man.
Okay.
So that's all. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, other aspects about this unholidayfication is that you are working again with Elidan Cantor for the cover art, because you start with work with him since the Dirge of Elysium. So why are you are so captured by the art of the Elidan Cantor? What are the motivation that you say, hey, we need to work again with Elidan Cantor?
Chuck?
So when we first had met, I believe that it was like there was some kind of like a go-between, like a buffer. Somebody had actually presented Ellerin to us. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it was Lauren
Yes.
at Listenable.
It was Lauren. Okay, so at that particular time, I have to admit I was ignorant to his work. So when working in collaboration, it was a matter of like presenting maybe like 2 or 3 elements of the album to him, and he turned it right over, like almost like lightning. I would say by first draft, it was exactly what we were hoping for. So as each year has progressed, it wasn't we had created like an amazing working relationship. I give him essentially like a concept and an idea. Even this last time around was a series of mock-ups and the like. I think we even did that for Sect of Vile Divinities. And, I have to commend his patience and fortitude and, his expertise and the prowess that he is. You know what I mean? Like, he is an exceptional artist, and he translates these things into things that we ourselves don't really know exactly how it's going to look. And it's between all of our minds put together that he develops these things into a cohesive piece of art. And yeah, he's never let us down yet. It's exceptional.
Oh, okay, okay. So, well, now Incantation that's a big name around the world. Is one has a lot of things. One just accomplished more than 30 years of existence. The band is a reference into the death metal worldwide. So, for you, John and Chuck, what kind of what how do you see now the death metal is in nowadays? Because a lot of bands trying to copy you, but at the same time trying to differentiate you. At the same time, I remember that Nergal said one time that the new bands need to focus on other kind of things, just not in music, because now the music is not like what you did in the 90s. Very different now. A lot of competition, a lot of releases every day. So what's your opinion about this aspect that Nergal says that the new musicians not focus more in normal jobs and other kind of stuff, and the music was like the second or third plan in their lives.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, as far as if people want to take music seriously, as far as like a number one thing, or a secondary thing in your life, I think that's a personal decision that people have to make, and there's nothing wrong with it necessarily either way. Um, you know, I just made the decision. I was just going to dedicate my life to it and kind of go with the flow and see what happens, because it just was too important to me not to. And every time I try to, say assimilate into regular life, I feel like my soul is dying. So I try not to. Um, but I think I mean, the fact that there's new bands and people are interested in creating music is a great thing for the scene. I mean, yes, it's over flooded and whatnot, but I still think most of the time either the bands that have something original to offer, or bands that just execute stuff well, because I mean, there's great bands that do stuff that is like, even though they're influenced by stuff, is still distinctively them. But then there's a lot of new bands out there that just play, say stuff that's already been done, but just do it well and do it in a youthful way or something, which is also good. I mean, those are all positive things for the scene and stuff. So I'm 100% for it. And it's good for us because we're always a band. We just kind of do our own thing. We don't really give a fuck about the trends and scenes and stuff. But the fact that the scene is kind of going in our direction, and the trends, I guess, are going in our direction, I mean, obviously we'll take it. It's fine. But and the fact that there's a lot of bands using us again as a template or something for what they do musically is a great honor, and it's nice to see, because it's something that none of us would have expected at all. So I'm totally down with it. I mean, it's working out good for us. I mean, the fact that people are interested still in death metal in 2023, when we started doing it in the late 80s, early 90s, is mind-boggling, really.
Yeah, yeah. Well, during the pandemic, the situation was different. No, you had to work remotely and you couldn't go on tour, as we spoke a few minutes ago. So now the pandemic
Yeah.
restrictions are over. How has been your experience with releasing this new album? No? Do you think everything is back to normal now? Is there anything that you learned with the pandemic and decide to keep this with this new album? Perhaps working remotely, for example.
Well, I mean, working remotely, we've kind of always done to some extent. It just wasn't really considered working remotely. As far as, I mean, after the pandemic, we'll just say now things are still in a strange place. They're slowly getting better, I think, but the inflation on stuff has made touring super expensive. It just sucks because we're doing really well as a band, but all the expenses around us are just like going crazy. I mean, airplane tickets and stuff are super expensive.
Mm.
All the transportation is fucking super expensive. So these problems never got fixed after the pandemic, and I don't know if they ever will. Unfortunately, this is probably the, I hate the term, but the kind of the new normal in life that you have to deal with and stuff. So I don't think it's ever going to get back to say where it was financially, but I think as far as show wise and the enthusiasm of the crowd, I think the pandemic helped the scene because people, realized what life was without seeing live bands or, purchasing music and stuff like that. So I think, it helped, and it took away and it helped at the same time. So yeah,
I
I
mean,
definitely don't. Yeah, go ahead.
it was just that I mean, during the pandemic itself was extremely productive for us,
Yeah.
but there was a latent fear with everybody. They didn't want to fly, they didn't want to go anywhere, they were all locked down, and we maybe took more risks than others would, but it paid off in the end. When it comes to actually returning to normality, it was an extremely saturated environment of double bookings, triple bookings, things being delayed 4 and 5 and 6 times, their own scheduling at that point. But all that's since passed as well. I mean, I would say as of right now, it kind of plateaued off, and it is this, I hate the term too, but it is this new normal. Everything's now, being booked accordingly, and expenses are, yes, out of control. I mean, it's a great example with the flights because, as easy as it was during the pandemic to get an extremely cheap flight and to go onto a plane of like whopping 7 people, that just does not happen anymore. It happened for about 2.5 years, almost 3. But then once you go back to this new normal, now everything's like double the price, and it's just absolutely overflowing with people. It's just a weird spot to be in, but it actually is great. I mean, the opportunities have really been kind of out of control, and it just shows that for the scene in and of itself, there's an interest level that's actually drawing us out there for it. So yeah, I don't have any problem with the way things are going, to be honest. Not now, except for the price of stuff.
Yeah.
No, okay, okay. Oh, now talk about the promotion of this new holidification. So, what kind of plans now that the band has for this to promote this new album? Perhaps you will embark in a new tours, perhaps in never next couple of weeks or next couple of months, perhaps next year, or you will return to Latin America 2024. Who knows? Who knows, etc.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're gonna be having an announcement for the tour soon that we have coming up, which is gonna be something really cool and special in the US. And yeah, I mean, we're basically just working out the game plan for stuff. We trying to figure out our plans for next year. Yeah, we plan on definitely hitting Europe again next year, and we just have to see as far as other things come up. I mean, there's been already talks of maybe doing some stuff in Mexico. I don't know if it's like a South American thing that's going to be connected to it or not, but of course we want to return back to South America too. I mean, it's totally awesome. Just kind of trying to figure out the timeline and everything, because definitely was it 2024 is going to be a pretty busy year for the band, especially with the new album coming out and just the the excitement around it's been really good. So we're really looking forward to it.
I mean, apart from even shows and the like, we do have another promotion angle. Am I at liberty to say this now, John?
Yes.
Okay. We actually are now the cover story to the new Decibel magazine is going to be coming out. And that has a full spread in there, which then in turn will give people another inside look at unholy deification and other aspects of it. So feel free to check that out when you get the chance too.
Yeah, and that's a really that's a really big deal in the States, because we don't, there's, first of all, there's not a lot of bands that get the cover, but second of all, it's just, it's the one magazine that's still available that supports, death metal and other forms of extreme metal in the US. So it's definitely a great honor.
Okay. Okay. Well, as I said, John, in the first question, we speak about the other kind of things because well, no, as when we spoke about the band, the history, this new album, and later things about the producers and the cover art, etc. And now talking about other topics, it is quite trendy to talk now about the technology and its impact in our society. We create tools to make our lives easier, but we are at the point where these tools are not used properly or making us incapable of living without them. So, for example, we can compose a record and music, record music at home. That there are a lot of one of man girl bands, and because of it, a lot of albums are released every week. So, do you feel this can make it more difficult to promote the new music for the old bands to compete with 100 of bands every day, 100 every week, every month? Also, the digital platforms this aspect has involved with a lot of recommendation because the algorithm too.
It's kind of dangerous in a way, actually, because you have such a easy accessibility to make an album. Like I've seen memes show up on social media all the time about like the one person black metal project. Well, there must be millions of them. And the thing is that because of this, that there's so many of them, what do people do? They scroll right past them. So as much as they're coming out, there's just as equally as many people that are ignoring it, and that gets dangerous.
Yeah,
And
I'm sorry to interrupt. It
no, you're
makes,
fine.
but that part makes it harder for bands to stand out. Like newer bands, it's harder for. I think yeah, I would say it's definitely, you really have to push yourself as a new band to get the recognition properly, or do something like stupid or something that goes viral, or it's like get popular for like a weird reason instead of necessarily just on the quality of the music. For a band like us, it's easier because we've been around, we're established, people know us kind of a staple of a scene. But I think for a newer band, it's definitely a problem. And with the ease of recording and it's things like AI and stuff like that, music is really going to start to get sucky, I think, after a while, because it's going to be so crowd pleasing. It's just vomitous, in my opinion.
It's horrible.
It's especially, I mean, for myself, it's like I'm not a fan of like whatever's just trendy. I'm kind of stubborn in my taste that I like. So last thing I want to hear is like the most popular generic death metal possible done by AI, and someone taking credit for which you won't, because you won't be able to prove that they used AI. So it's like they'll get credit for it. People just think that these people are super talented when all they're doing really is just having an algorithm come up with your song, which I think is a very dangerous thing for the entertainment industry, because the less impact people have on music, making music, the lamer the music's going to end up being. You already see that with pop music. It's all so totally formulated. And even with death metal, it's starting to get formulated too, to some extent. And AI and stuff like that, all it's going to do is make it more formulated. And it's like, no, you have to go against it. You have to go against the formulas. You have to go against, you have to be a rebel in the music industry, not a conformist.
Yeah, I mean, there's even folks that'll go and retrace the old days and go and get themselves like reel to reel, because that's the most organic sound that you can get, and it costs an absolute fortune, and the process is like extremely difficult. But then you using technology to your advantage and everything by having the most organic sound done synthetically. Well, that had limits too. Now it turned into things that are so polished and so clean. It's like like surf rock clean, and that diminishes a lot of things too. I wish that it was used for the advantages that it could create for people, but people just use it in such a way that it's sad. You know what I mean?
People
Like
always fuck things up. They always take technology and use it for something super lame instead of use something for a positive, or something that is really useful.
Sure, without a doubt. I mean, with all of these cases of these different bands thing that are going to be essentially ignored and everything? Is it a matter of just tenure? Is it really something that they create that's that unique from the next? Or is it a matter of paying for the ads for Facebook to give you your algorithm? Well, that's not, I mean, that's messed up. You know, it should be it should be the merits of your work, not, you know, if they decide whether or not it gets popular. It's pretty pathetic.
Yes, yes. And with this aspect, when about the algorithms, I remember that I read an article about the free will, that the algorithms as winning the battle against the free will, because well, in the 80s or the mid until the mid 90s, or at the end of the 90s, you can use magazines to select what band you like. You go to the store and just for the cover art buy the CD, buy the
Sure.
CD. At that time, that was. But now the algorithms are more focusing in recommendation, even the recommendation just for one single. Just well, especially for the new generation, the algorithm works perfectly because they don't want to do or just select or find something big under the obviously things of the algorithms. They just select what's with the algorithm put in the front of it. So do you think? Oh, and even this article said that the free will is losing the battle against the algorithms. So do you think the human with this kind of aspect to select and everything's easy for now for the new generation? Do you think the free will is losing the battle against the algorithms?
Oh no, I think they're losing it and utterly. I actually agree with that article already. I mean, you know, if you don't create something that they agree with, you're beat. Simply put, there is no free will in that. You put your stuff out there and then they just tell you no.
But the problem is that they're they're not. It's not really public domain. It's company owned, so they're gonna have their biases and their things that they're going to be cool with or not cool with. So that's part of the problem. It's not the same as, you know, if someone's writing a fanzine, they could write whatever the hell they want in there. Like,
Sure.
you know, maybe the internet you could do something like that to some extent, but there's probably even safeguards on that. But it's like it's kind of like an open area to talk about things, but it's also governed, you know, in a way where you can't just say whatever you want to say, or you can't do whatever you want to do unless it's, you know, okay by the guidelines, which I understand, you know, if it's somebody's personal thing, they should have guidelines for how they want to have it done, but it shouldn't be it shouldn't be stopped by either like a government thing or a big business thing. It's just a bad, you know, any kind of censorship, in my opinion, is bad. It's like you know, if you truly believe in, you know, there should be freedom of speech, you have to understand that there's going to be freedom of speech you don't like, and it's important. That's the time when you should be fighting for freedom of speech, is when, you know, it's you have stuff you don't like, because that's being, you know, letting the reality happen instead of having something stop. Because if what I'm trying to say is, if you stop something from coming up, like an algorithm can, one day it's going to go against you for some reason. You know, it's going to find a reason to not want to, you know, show your stuff or promote your stuff or delete your stuff. So you don't want the list of like bad things that you can't do to keep growing and growing. That's just not a good vibe.
Yeah, I
And
mean, this isn't like the Tipper Gore days, you know what I mean? The Tipper Gore era and everything, it was still physically out there. And it took, you know, you know, entire court proceedings in order for it to be, you know, acknowledged in such a fashion. You know, everybody gets excited when they see Dee Snider shut down her, you know, but nowadays there's no way to really bring this to any other way except for to either ignore it or, you know, complain to nobody that's going to listen to you. So,
and what was it? There was something he said earlier that I was thinking about. Yeah, the oh, I don't know. I think it was just about the algorithm stuff with you know, bands. It's sad that a lot of the social media sites yeah, now the algorithm works against you unless you're paying
Yeah.
to let your algorithm work, which is really a you know, a lame as fuck thing to do, because they basically got everybody hooked on stuff like Facebook and Instagram and bands and other things, other companies and stuff, were using that to make money, and try to, get people to shows or try to sell their items or whatever. And now they're making them pay to get the same coverage they were getting before, which is just, it just seems fucking lame and, totally grubbing. And, it's almost like they're double screwing you. It's hard enough to get your stuff out there already, and then you can put it out there and you can get, whatever, 5 likes or something. But if you pay, you'll be able to get hundreds of likes on the same thing, which back in the day, you just post something up and your friends would see it. And, and that's what you wanted social media for, is for you post something, people want to see it, it'll show up on their feed. Now the feeds are all geared towards algorithms and stuff. And one thing I want to say about the algorithm too, even though I bitch about it all the time, it pisses me off because like 90% of the time it's fucking right. And I'm like, fuck you. Because there'll be something will show up that's like, you might like this. And I'm like, fuck, I like that. I don't want to, but I just
those things, like technology, dude, is evil. I mean, I was talking to that stupid Alexa machine about a Conan soundtrack. For whatever reason, I just wanted to hear it, right? The next day, my whole phone is filled with everything from Conan socks to fucking Conan hats and shirts and stuff. I'm like, man. And like, it's not even a conspiracy theory. Like they're fucking pumping me full of Conan shit. I was like, damn, dude. Yeah. I don't know. Technology,
Yo-Yo
right?
Yo-Yo and I were just talking in the car the other day about a band, and then the next day all she got was like all these promotions for that band or whatever. It wasn't even like we wanted to, it wasn't even like positive or negative. It just brought up the band name, and all of a sudden
there
everything's
it is.
showing up to that band. It's like it's listening even when you're not doing nothing,
It's fucking nuts. What a world.
Yeah.
Other world. well, one of the last questions for this interview. I remember that in the news that many vocalists are using parts recorded live, and even the Motley Crue sometimes, because a lot of vocalists get tired with singing 15 songs, do the old tours, 20 dates singing 15 songs each night. It's very difficult for a single part. It's very difficult. John, you need to be ready all the time. It's very difficult. But and some these kind of people are using the technology like the iTunes or recording parts to help in live presentations to do better things. It's normal. And with this aspect, I spoke with a lot of musicians that say, well, a lot of vocalists that say that if the people enjoy the presentation, normally that you can use the software to help live. So, what is your opinion about now? Now a lot of people are using the technology to do better things live. Are you agree with if the people enjoy the presentation or the show, you will still doing this kind of? You will using this technology?
I mean, I'm not a super big fan of backing tracks. I mean, I think, certain times it seems reasonable, I guess, if it's a band that can't afford to have a symphony tour with them or something, or, maybe they don't have a keyboard player, or, they need some, even as they have backing vocals, I guess, maybe, but I do feel weird. I feel weird when I see bands rely heavily on it. Like, and I hate to bring it up, but when I seen a Wasp play at the Mexico Metal Fest, Blackie was relying heavily on backing tracks, and it was super obvious. Number one, because that sounded so good. It sounded way too good to be real, but also they had a timing fuck up on stage, and his vocals were not lining up with what they were playing or whatever. So it was really kind of a mess. I think it was early on in their touring for the for their whatever it is, their 40th year thing or whatever they're doing now. So I was like, my honest opinion was it was cool to hear, but it took away from it to know that it wasn't real. I mean, of course you don't want somebody to sound like crap live or whatever, but I think it's worse when it's too artificial. It just, you want to like it, but you're just kind of like, it's just a little fucked, like you want to hear almost the imperfections in it. It's part of the personality of the songs and stuff like that. Like I think somebody, a singer like Bruce Dickinson, you could tell he's really singing, and sometimes he's flat, sometimes things are off a little bit, but I don't know. I kind of like that better, not that I like hearing people off, but I like hearing bands just fucking play and they either sound good or not. I mean, even, last time I seen Deep Purple play, I think Ian Gillan was, he was really singing. I don't think he was using backing tracks. And there were certain songs where he just couldn't hit the high notes on or whatever, but it was still honest, I mean, you're not going to get to see Deep Purple do Child in Time anymore. He just can't hit it, but they don't play the song that he can't hit. And they play other songs that he's able to hit 90% of the notes, which, I think that's a better route to go than to falsify it. To me, it's just weird, but it's part of the way the world is now. People just, are able to over rely on technology, too much, where I think it's bad. I mean, luckily for me, I don't sing high, so I don't have to really worry about it. And it seems like just with age, my low end on the voice is actually getting better than worse. So that's good. But, it would really be a real conundrum to not do this anymore because I felt like I couldn't hit the notes anymore. I'd be really bummed out to say, well, okay, we're going to have these tracks of your vocals playing in the background to cover it up. I'd be kind of like, it's pretty lame, I don't know if I would be that psyched about it,
I mean, back in the day, I'm going to use a couple examples just because I find it like, I know the technology is there to help, which is great, but now it's being used in such a way that even the public isn't, in an uproar where they should be. Back in the day when Boston would play live, they sounded exactly like their album, so much so that people were like, well, I should have just stayed home and watched it, and listened to it on, a record or whatever. You get other people that are like, well, Venom gets up there and they play like whatever the hell they want, and people loved it too. So you have two different aspects of it. Whereas if you're sitting there creating like something, I used this example before, which is terrible, but it is the honest truth. Milli Vanilli's career got absolutely decimated because they were faking it. Nowadays, you got little Justin Bieber up there barfing on stage while he's still singing. So it's just sad in a sense that you can't recreate what you had already done live. There are those that get so ambitious with it, like Dragon Force or something. It's impossible for them to recreate what they do on their albums. It's just impossible. So do you just rely on technology to make it perfect? Well, then don't do it. What we create in a studio can be translated live at any given moment. And I'd hope to think that anybody that is playing it, especially in death metal, that you're honest to yourself and to your fan base to know that what you do is it. This is it. I mean, we're not anybody different. And to use technology to that extent is like a crutch. You start getting used to it. You use it to fill gaps. You use it to fill the organics of actually another human being actually playing a second rhythm guitar so that you can switch to solos. Instead, now you got little machines next to you. It's just it's sad in a sense,
we see too many bands. I mean, I've seen too many bands that rely so much on backing tracks and click tracks to do all their stuff. And I mean, bands are inserting guitar parts into solos sometimes on backing tracks and stuff, and I'm just like, is this a band playing or are we just doing a play here, because that's what it's getting to that point. There was a point when, okay, they want to keep the show on time and stuff like that and use click tracks. But then because they started using click tracks, then it's like, oh, then we could just time these parts into click tracks and they're going to mesh perfectly with what we're doing live. I mean, when people see us play live, you know, we're not playing to a click track. We're just going up there and playing. And, you know, because it's a live show, sometimes there's going to be a bad note here and there, or something's going to be off a little bit. We're going to get back to it, but you're going to see something that is real. It's not a, you know, it's not, for lack of a better word, a play. We're performing the songs live, but we're not playing the songs like, you know, like pretending we're playing the songs and just going through the motions. No, every show is its own thing, and it's not going to be exactly like the show yesterday or the show before that or the show tomorrow. Each day, each show is its own thing, and that's what makes, I think, bands great. That's what I want to see with bands. I want to see, you know, I want to be able to watch a band, say, 3 nights in a row and feel that same energy each time, not just feel like I'm watching this perfect, like I'm not watching a TV show or something, you know, where every time it's the same, you know. It's like, I want the fuck ups. I want the reality of the show, you know, or if, you know, they're tight players and there's no fuck ups at all, I still want that personality of playing live. To me, it's just important, you know.
Those old bands that we would listen to growing up sounded one particular way, but now they use a click track and they don't sound organic at all anymore. And they sound so mechanized that it's sometimes even hard to pick out the very songs you've been listening to for 20 years. You're listening to and you're like, what the hell is this? And then you know, like a particular riff starts being played and you're like, oh shit, that's what this is? You know, it's that much detachment from what they had originally done. And it's due to the technology. It's a shame.
Yeah,
they shouldn't be using it.
I think bands should remember why they got into the basement in the first place and hung out with their friends and tried to play music and use that as their reason for doing it. Once it gets too big, too processed, too commercialized, you know, I think it just takes away from the sincerity of the music. It might be clinically correct, but fuck that, you know, fuck being clinically correct. It's about how it sounds. It's about the feeling in the music. The bands that I grew up listening to, you felt the personality. Like Chuck brought up a great example of Venom. You see them play live, Venom or Venom Inc., whatever, you know, you're watching something really happen. You're watching a chemistry really take place in front of you. It's not perfect. It's not all about just, you know, being the pristine show. The rough edges are part of what makes it great. The feel that you're part of the show and that your reaction to the show is part of what makes the show great. You know, these things are important, I think. And these are things that I don't know if they're ever going to be able to be replaced, because right now all they're getting, what's happening from technology is it's sterilizing these bands instead of enriching the bands, in my opinion.
Totally agree.
Yeah. Well, Chuck and John,
Yes.
the side times arrive at this interview. We are, as usually, terrific guy, both people great. The last album is a great record on Halification. I did my pre-order, loved the album, congratulations on it. Perhaps do you want to add something to your Latin American fans that expect, again, perhaps next year, you know, this year or next year, a Latin American tour completely, and Metalerum followers?
Yes. Well, I mean, we definitely look forward to returning to Latin America. I mean, we hope that we're able to do a thorough tour, maybe even play a few places that we haven't played before. But we've been really trying hard to get to Venezuela to play, and it's been a task. It's been something for years we've been trying to do. So we hope we get to play there, and we also really need to get a show in Paraguay, because unfortunately Paraguay got canceled the last time we were supposed to play there due to no fault of our own, and we really owe them a show. And of course, just, you know, Chile, Peru, you know, Brazil, you know, Uruguay, everywhere, Argentina, wherever you want to say, is just you know, phenomenal. We definitely want to hit Ecuador again too. It's been quite a while since we played there, and we had a great time. So yeah, we're just really looking forward to playing for all the death metal heads. I mean, South America has always been great to us, and it's you know, total honor to every time we get to play there.
Exactly the same. I mean, we've had some of the most energetic and positive reactions, which feeds us on stage in order to play even harder and stronger for the supporters that we have down there. And we couldn't be more humbled and appreciative to actually come back down there and crush some skulls and crush some stages and have a blast.